Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepless Scientist, a quiet place in the cosmos where your thoughts can unwind and knowledge becomes a soft lullaby for the night. Tonight's journey will take us into a question so simple that it feels almost childlike, yet it reshaped our entire understanding of the universe. Why is the night sky dark? You might glance upward on a calm evening and see only a handful of distant stars scattered gently across a deep canvas of darkness. But if the universe is truly vast, filled with countless suns and ancient galaxies stretching outward without end, why isn't the whole sky glowing? This quiet paradox will be our companion tonight, guiding us through ideas of infinity, time, and the subtle ways light travels across the cosmos. Before we settle in, feel free to dim the lights, let the air around you soften, and perhaps imagine yourself resting beneath a wide open sky, where each distant point of light is a story travelling across the ages. And if your mind drifts as we explore, that's perfectly fine. Let it drift. We'll still be here, gently unfolding the mystery together. If you step outside on a clear evening and give your eyes a moment to adjust, the night sky reveals itself slowly, almost shyly. A few bright stars come first, like friends arriving early. Then more emerge, faint, steady pinpricks of light scattered across a background that remains overwhelmingly dark. This darkness feels so natural to us that we rarely question it. Yet the more calmly you look, the stranger it becomes. If the universe truly contains countless stars in all directions, stretching outward far beyond our sight, shouldn't the sky be flooded with their light? Shouldn't every inch of the heavens glow? Astronomers once asked themselves the same question. For centuries they assumed the universe was infinite, eternal, and filled uniformly with stars. In such a universe, the darkness above us shouldn't exist. Imagine standing in the centre of an unending landscape at night, and every house, no matter how far, has a lantern softly glowing. Some lanterns are bright, close enough to illuminate your hands. Others are distant, their light arriving faint and diffused. But because the landscape goes on forever, there are infinitely many lanterns. Their combined glow should wash away any hint of darkness. Even if each lantern grew dimmer with distance, the sheer number of them should overwhelm the night. This was the heart of the puzzle that would later be named Olbers Paradox. A paradox not because it requires complicated mathematics, but because the logic feels both obvious and impossible at the same time. If the cosmos is infinite and filled with stars, then darkness should have nowhere to hide. Yet each night, darkness is what fills almost everything we see. It helps to picture the universe as layers, like translucent spheres surrounding you. The nearest layer contains the closest stars, bright, easy to spot. A larger layer sits beyond them, holding many more stars spread across a greater surface. And farther still, more layers follow, each one larger than the last. As the layers get larger, the number of stars within them increases dramatically. No matter how faint a single star might be, the number of stars in each expanding layer multiplies fast enough to compensate for their faintness. In a truly infinite and timeless cosmos, these layers would stack forever, filling the sky with the combined light of uncountable suns. Yet this is not the sky we see. Instead, we see darkness dominating every direction, broken only by scattered points of light. The universe, which should be overwhelmingly bright, is instead overwhelmingly dark. This contrast unsettled early astronomers. It was as if the cosmos were withholding something, a quiet secret wrapped in the space between the stars. As you stand beneath the night sky, it might feel still and eternal, but the darkness itself offers a clue that things are not as steady as they appear. The human eye naturally seeks patterns and meaning in what it sees, and when it finds emptiness, it assumes simplicity. But here, the emptiness is the key. It hints at something about the universe's shape, its history, and even the nature of light itself. For the darkness to exist at all, something fundamental about our assumptions must be wrong. Perhaps the universe is not infinite in age. Perhaps light does not travel forever without change. Perhaps the stars themselves have lifetimes, stories with beginnings and ends, instead of shining eternally. Or perhaps the fabric of space behaves in ways we do not immediately feel, stretching, shifting, guiding light on paths far different from beams in a still room. These ideas will come later in our journey tonight, unfolding one by one like lanterns in a distant valley. For now, it is enough to rest beneath the quiet sky and feel the paradox settle gently in your thoughts. An infinite universe filled with stars should blaze with light, and yet the night is dark. It is a contradiction soft enough to carry you towards sleep, yet deep enough to change the course of science. As we drift onward, we'll look more closely at how this question grew, how early thinkers tried to answer it, and how this simple observation, the darkness above, became one of the most profound clues about the true nature of the universe. Try, for a moment, to imagine yourself standing at the centre of an endless universe, one that stretches outward in every direction without boundary or limit. Not a universe shaped by the discoveries we know today, but the universe as many early thinkers believed it to be, eternal, unchanging, and filled evenly with stars scattered throughout its vastness. It is a universe with no beginning, no edge, and no empty spaces waiting to be filled. In this imagined cosmos, every direction you turn holds countless suns, each sending out light that drifts through the deep silence of space. The stars may be far, the distance is incomprehensibly large, but distance alone cannot dim their collective brilliance. Not if the universe truly goes on forever. To understand why this idea was so compelling, and why it created such a profound paradox, we can picture the cosmos using calm, familiar imagery. Imagine a series of transparent shells centered around you, like layers of a delicate glass onion. The first shell contains the stars closest to where you stand. These are bright, familiar, and easy for the eye to catch. Now imagine a second shell that lies farther out. It has a much larger surface area, and because of that, it contains more stars. A third shell contains even more, and each shell beyond it grows dramatically in size. Even though the stars themselves may appear fainter as they sit farther away, the sheer number of them grows so quickly that their combined light should more than make up for their fading brightness. You can soften that idea even further by thinking of raindrops on a gently expanding pond. Close to the centre, there are only a few ripples, but farther out as the circle grows, the ripples multiply. If each ripple were a point of light, then an infinite pond would eventually become entirely covered with shimmering rings. The faintness of each individual ripple wouldn't matter in the end. What matters is that there are infinitely many of them. This logic is at the heart of the classic version of Olbers Paradox. The farther you look, the more stars you should find, and the more of those faint glimmers should add together. In a universe without limits, the collective glow of these countless stars should grow so intense that the sky becomes bright everywhere. Not just at the points where individual stars shine. Even if many stars are too far away to be seen clearly, their light should accumulate slowly and steadily, like layers of translucent silk being placed on top of one another until the entire fabric glows. This idea can be made even clearer with a simple thought experiment. Imagine yourself in a nighttime field surrounded by an infinite number of fireflies. The ones nearest to you are bright and easy to spot. The ones farther away appear dimmer, their soft glows barely peeking through the darkness. But because there are infinitely many fireflies, their combined light should eventually brighten every part of the field. The darkness between them would gradually disappear. No matter where you look, your gaze would eventually land on a firefly, and all of their collective light would add up until the night no longer felt like night at all. Early astronomers, long before they knew about expanding space or the finite age of the cosmos, relied on reasoning like this. They understood that light spreads out as it travels, growing weaker with distance. But they also understood that if the universe had endlessly many stars, then the number of stars in each expanding shell of space would grow faster than their individual brightness faded. In simple terms, the dimming caused by distance would be overwhelmed by the sheer number of stars available to fill the sky. This is why, in a universe that is infinite and eternal, darkness should be impossible. Every line of sight you choose, any direction you point your gaze, should eventually encounter a star, because there are infinitely many of them, and infinitely many opportunities for your line of sight to meet one. Even if some regions of space appear empty, the overall effect of infinite starlight would fill those gaps with a soft radiance. To describe this without resorting to symbols or equations, imagine that you are looking through a forest of trees that stretches out endlessly. Up close, you may see the trunks clearly. Farther away, the trunks seem thinner, more distant. But if the forest is infinite, then every line of sight will eventually meet a trunk. You cannot look in a single direction without ultimately seeing a tree. The forest, in a sense, closes in around you with its infinite repetition. The early universe model behaved exactly like that imagined forest. Each star acted like a tree. Each point of light, no matter how faint, contributed to the grand sum of illumination. If the universe truly existed as this endless forest of stars, then the night sky would be filled with light so thoroughly that there would be no darkness at all. Every patch of sky would be as bright as the surface of an average star, because every direction would ultimately lead to one. The entire sky would look like a luminous sheet of pale fire, a cosmic day that never ends. This thought, this gentle, unsettling expectation of brightness, makes the darkness we see all the more astonishing. When we look up, we do not see a sky bursting with uniform brightness. We do not see a glowing dome that never lets us sleep. Instead, we see a quiet, dark expanse with just a handful of bright points scattered here and there. We see darkness vastly outweighing light, and this difference between expectation and reality hints that one of the assumptions must be wrong. Perhaps the universe is not infinite. Perhaps it is not eternal. Perhaps it is not filled uniformly with stars. Or perhaps something about the way light travels through space is more complicated and more beautiful than earlier thinkers imagined. Even before the great discoveries of modern cosmology, this contradiction began whispering a gentle warning. The darkness is not what it seems. It holds clues about beginnings, about motion, about a universe that is not static but alive with change. It invites us to reconsider everything we thought we understood about the night sky. As we continue drifting through this paradox, we'll soon look at the early explanations offered by astronomers trying to make sense of the darkness, ideas that were intuitive, comforting, and entirely wrong. Their mistakes will guide us toward the truth, like stepping stones across a quiet river at dusk. Just let the idea settle for now. In an infinite universe filled with stars, darkness should not exist, and yet it does. That contradiction is the doorway into the universe's true story. When you trace the logic of an infinite star-filled universe gently, step by step, it seems almost flawless at first. You imagine an endless expanse of stars surrounding you, layer after layer, like lanterns hung across an immeasurable night. You picture each distant shell of space holding more and more stars, their combined glow quietly overpowering their individual faintness. You imagine that no matter where you look, north, south, or into any quiet corner of the sky, your line of sight will eventually meet the surface of a star. And if this is true, then the sky should shine with a steady radiance, soft and uniform, as though the cosmos were wrapped in a bright, warm veil. But when you look up at the real night sky, none of this is true. Instead of a glowing curtain of light, you see mostly darkness. Instead of a luminous dome, you see a quiet, velvet backdrop with only scattered points of brightness. And this is where the paradox truly begins. To understand the contradiction, it helps to sit with the idea for a moment, the way a philosopher might rest with a troubling thought that refuses to leave. Imagine holding two truths gently in your hands. One truth says the universe is infinite, eternal, and filled evenly with stars. The other truth says the night sky is dark. Each truth feels certain on its own. Together they do not fit. The tension between them is soft but unmistakable, like two notes in a melody that refuse to harmonize. This tension puzzled thinkers long before modern astronomy took shape. Even Johannes Kepler, in the early 1600s, wondered why the night sky wasn't flooded with starlight. His reasoning was simple but profound. If the universe is infinite and filled with stars, then the night sky should be bright. But Kepler also lived in a time when people still imagined the cosmos as a kind of enclosed sphere. So he suggested that maybe the universe simply wasn't infinite after all. He thought the darkness might be a clue that the cosmos ended somewhere, that the number of stars was limited, and that the sky's darkness was evidence of this boundary. It was a thoughtful guess, but one made long before people understood the true scale of the cosmos. Later, thinkers approached the question with new ideas but reached the same unsettling conclusion. They imagined light piling up layer by layer, like thin bands of colour painted across a vast tapestry. Even if each layer was faint on its own, an infinite number of such layers should eventually shine brightly. And because stars are spread throughout space, not just nearby, the sky should glow with the combined contribution of all those distant sources. The farther you look, the more stars you find, and the more light should be reaching your eyes. This reasoning does not require tight equations or symbols to feel persuasive. You can express it softly. Light spreads out as it travels, becoming weaker with distance, but the number of stars grows so quickly with each expanding shell that their overall contribution still adds up. The loss from distance is balanced and eventually overwhelmed by the immense volume of space. It is like saying each lantern in a distant field may be dim, but if the field stretches infinitely and every patch of ground holds another lantern, their collective glow must eventually brighten everything. And yet the sky is dark. This contradiction is not merely a puzzle about brightness. It strikes at the very heart of how we imagine the universe. If the sky's dark, then one or more of the basic assumptions must be wrong. Perhaps the universe is not infinite. Perhaps it is not eternal. Perhaps it's not filled uniformly with stars. Or perhaps the behaviour of light itself changes over great distances. Each possibility opens a doorway into a different vision of the cosmos, and each doorway carries with it a shift in how we understand time, distance, and the history of everything. The paradox deepens when you consider the stars themselves. In the old picture of an eternal universe, stars would have to shine forever, burning endlessly like perfect celestial flames that never flicker or fade. But real stars do not behave that way. They have lifetimes. They are born, they shine, and eventually they die. If the universe had existed forever, the night sky would not only be bright, it would also be filled with the glow of generations of stars. Everything would be lit by the accumulated light of stars long gone, stars still shining, and stars yet to come. But the quiet darkness we see above us shows nothing of that sort. It shows a universe where many stars have not existed long enough to contribute their light in a meaningful way. This observation seemed subtle at first, but it carried immense meaning. Over time, astronomers realized that the darkness was telling them something simple yet powerful. The universe has not existed forever. If it had, the sky would be bright. The fact that the sky is dark suggests a universe with a beginning, a universe where light has limits because time has limits. Another idea began to surface as scientists thought more deeply about the behavior of light. They noticed that the light from distant galaxies was not just faint, it was stretched. Not in the way of a rope being pulled, but more like the soft lengthening of a musical note lowered gently into a deeper register. This stretching of light, something we call redshift, means that distant light arrives weakened, carried on longer and softer waves than when it began its journey. Those waves become so stretched that eventually they slip into ranges our eyes cannot detect. To a human standing under the stars, this softened, invisible light simply disappears into the fabric of the night. The universe may still be glowing with energy, but much of that glow is hidden in wavelengths we cannot see. And so the paradox grows clearer. If the universe had infinite time, infinite stars, and no changes in how light behaves, the sky would be bright. But we do not live in such a universe. The darkness is not a flaw in nature, it is a clue. It whispers to us that the cosmos is dynamic, that it changes, that it has a history. The night sky is dark because we're living in a universe that is still unfolding, still expanding, still cooling, still allowing light to reach us one wave at a time. This realization turns the paradox into a promise. The darkness is not an emptiness to be feared. It is a sign that we are living in a universe with a beginning, a universe where light is still traveling toward us, a universe that has not yet finished telling its story. As we move further into our quiet exploration tonight, we will follow the early attempts to resolve this paradox, the explanations that felt comforting but turned out to be incomplete. Each attempt reveals something about how humans try to understand the vastness above them, and each one brings us a little closer to the true reason the night sky remains dark. Just let the idea settle. The darkness is not a void. It is a message, waiting patiently for us to listen. Long before telescopes revealed the delicate glow of distant galaxies, long before astronomers understood that space could stretch, or that time itself had a beginning, humans stared into the night sky and tried to make sense of the darkness. The question of why the night sky is dark might seem modern, but its roots stretch deep into centuries of wandering minds. The trail of this cosmic mystery winds through the thoughts of philosophers, mathematicians, early astronomers, and dreamers who looked upward and sensed that something about the darkness did not quite fit. One of the earliest figures to brush against this question was Thomas Digges in the late 1500s. He lived at a time when many still imagined the universe as a closed dome, with stars fixed to a celestial sphere like tiny lamp crystals. Digges dared to stretch that dome outward, suggesting that the stars extended endlessly, scattered through an infinite expanse. It was a bold idea, one that expanded the cosmos dramatically, but it carried with it a troubling implication. If stars filled an infinite volume, why didn't the sky shine with an infinite glow? Digges didn't pursue the contradiction too deeply, but he planted the seed of a question that would linger for centuries. A few decades later, Johannes Kepler allowed that quiet question to settle more heavily in his thoughts. Kepler was concerned with the motions of planets, the elegant orbits that later shaped modern astronomy, but he also had a poet's sensitivity to the sky. When he looked at the darkness between the stars, he sensed something unsettling. If the universe stretched out forever, and if stars were scattered throughout that infinity, then the night sky should not be dark. It should shine so brilliantly that it would be indistinguishable from day. To Kepler, the darkness was evidence, soft, subtle evidence, that the universe must be finite. He believed that if the cosmos had a boundary, like a great sphere containing a limited number of stars, then darkness could exist. The emptiness beyond that boundary would explain the quiet, velvet night. Kepler's suggestion wasn't correct in the long run, but it captured something essential. The darkness was not trivial. It was a clue. As centuries passed, the idea evolved. The cosmos grew in the human imagination. Telescopes grew more powerful, revealing star clusters, nebulae, and the faint brushstrokes of galaxies far beyond our own. Yet the night sky remained dark. The more astronomers discovered, the more puzzling the darkness became. The stars were not confined to a small shell around the solar system. They were not arranged in a tidy, limited sphere. They seemed to stretch farther and farther outward, their numbers multiplying with every new instrument that lifted its gaze. The universe looked increasingly vast and increasingly inconsistent with the deep shadow that covered it each night. Edmund Halley, best known for the comet that carries his name, was one of the first to articulate how strange the darkness truly was. He imagined the stars as a great ocean of suns surrounding the Earth. If that ocean extended without end, he reasoned, then the sky should shine with overwhelming brilliance. Halley didn't know about the expanding universe or the finite age of stars. He simply followed the logic where it led. If the night sky is dark, something about the endless ocean must be wrong. Jean-Philippe de Chesseau, an 18th century Swiss astronomer, took this reasoning even further. He noticed that the number of visible stars seemed to grow in a way that did not match the amount of darkness present. Using only geometric intuition and careful sky observations, he proposed that an infinite static universe filled with stars should be bright everywhere. The darkness was unexplained. He presented this troubling contradiction in 1744, but his work drew little attention. The world wasn't ready to see the night sky as a riddle. It wasn't until the early 19th century that the paradox finally received a name, thanks to Heinrich Olbers, a German physician and astronomer with a quiet curiosity about the heavens. Olbers approached the problem with a gentle but persistent logic. If the universe is static, infinite, and filled uniformly with stars, he argued, then the night sky must be bright. Not just bright in patches where stars happen to lie, but bright everywhere. Olbers proposed an intuitive explanation. Perhaps interstellar dust blocks the light of distant stars. A soft veil of cosmic soot could darken the sky and preserve the peace of night. But Olbers also noticed something subtle and important. If dust were truly absorbing all that starlight, it would eventually heat up and glow, becoming another source of illumination. A veil of dust cannot stay dark under endless starlight. Over time, it would become just as bright as the stars themselves. His own explanation quietly unravelled under its weight. Olbers didn't solve the paradox. He simply framed it clearly enough that others began to pay attention. The paradox now carried his name, not because he answered it, but because he understood its depth. He recognized that the darkness was not simply an absence, it was a contradiction that demanded an answer. The darkness pointed toward a missing piece of cosmic understanding. Throughout the 1800s, the paradox lingered at the edge of scientific thought, quiet but persistent. The universe, as people knew it then, didn't offer a satisfying solution. The cosmos seemed static. Time seemed eternal. Stars seemed abundant and evenly spread. And yet the night sky remained dark. It was like holding a puzzle where every piece seems to fit except one. No matter how you rotate it, the final piece refuses to settle into place. As we drift from one century to the next in this story, the paradox becomes more than a scientific problem. It becomes a reminder of how easy it is to overlook something essential simply because it feels ordinary. Darkness is so familiar that we seldom question it, and yet, for astronomers of the past, that very familiarity masked one of the most profound clues about the nature of the universe. The darkness whispered hints about beginnings, about motion, about light that travels but does not arrive instantly. Eventually the solution would come, not from dust or boundaries or infinite chains of stars, but from a shift in understanding so vast that it reshaped everything we know about space, time, and the history of existence. The darkness was waiting for an explanation that required the universe itself to have a past, a dynamic nature, and a story unfolding across billions of years. But before we reach that revelation, we'll follow the stepping stones of the early explanations, ideas that were elegant in their simplicity, comforting to hold on to, and yet ultimately incomplete. Those ideas form the next part of our gentle journey. When the darkness of the night sky first began to trouble astronomers, their earliest explanations were not unreasonable. In fact, they were intuitive, gentle, simple ideas that felt like they should work. Imagine yourself as a thinker in the 18th or 19th century, without knowledge of expanding space or the finite age of the universe. You look up at the stars, realize the sky should be bright if the universe were infinite, and feel the paradox pressing softly against your thoughts. Your mind reaches for the most familiar explanation. Something must be blocking the light. Something must be standing between your eyes and the distant stars, softening their glow and letting the night remain dark. The first idea that took hold was interstellar dust. Not dust like the particles drifting through a sunlit room, but cosmic dust. Tiny grains of rock and carbon floating between the stars like a thin fog. To early astronomers, this seemed perfectly plausible. After all, when fog settles over a landscape, distant lights become dimmer. When dust hangs in the air, the background grows hazy. It was easy to imagine the universe filled with a gentle mist that swallowed the light from distant stars and allowed darkness to survive. For a moment, the explanation feels comforting. Dust is something we understand. It dims light without much effort. It gives the night its quiet character. But when you think about dust more deeply, the comfort begins to fade and the paradox quietly resurfaces. The issue becomes clear when you imagine a simple object, a blanket placed over a lamp. At first, the blanket may dim the lamp's glow, casting a softer light into the room, but after a while, as the lamp continues to shine, the blanket warms. It does not remain dark. The heat gently suffuses it until the blanket begins to glow itself, not nearly as bright as the lamp, but bright enough that you can see it glowing faintly in the dim room. Dust in the cosmos behaves in much the same way. When light strikes dust, the dust absorbs the energy. It warms slowly and quietly, just like that blanket. And anything that warms eventually releases energy again. It glows. This glow might not be visible to the human eye. It might appear in longer, softer waves, waves our eyes are not sensitive to. But in an infinite universe filled with stars, even a faint glow from every dust grain would accumulate into a brightness that could not be ignored. Dust cannot be a permanent hiding place for starlight. It cannot stay dark forever. it would eventually shine with all the light it absorbed, filling the sky with a radiance that counteracts its own dimming effect. Another early idea was that maybe light simply faded away as it travelled over vast distances. Perhaps starlight had a kind of cosmic fatigue, growing weaker and weaker until it vanished into the background. This explanation also feels intuitive. After all, many everyday things lose strength with distance. Echoes soften, scents disperse, waves flatten. Light too grows dim with distance, spreading wider as it travels, its energy distributed across a larger and larger area. But here again, intuition leads us astray. The reason light dims is not because it tires or evaporates into nothingness. It dims because it spreads out, its energy gently unfolding like ripples in water. Yet in the classic picture of an infinite universe, the number of stars increases faster than the dimming effect of distance. The energy might spread thinly, but the stars are endless in number. Their contributions would stack upon one another until, once again, the night sky should glow. Light does not disappear on its own. It does not dissolve. Energy doesn't simply fade without a reason. It can transform, it can shift, it can stretch, but it does not vanish. Some astronomers of the past imagined the universe as a giant static container, a kind of cosmic box in which starlight floated indefinitely. They thought of darkness as something that simply happened when light became too thin or too faint. But a box, even a vast one, does not swallow sound or light forever. Imagine standing inside a large chamber. If you shout, the sound bounces from wall to wall. If you keep shouting, the chamber fills with echoes, layering over one another until the room hums with their accumulated energy. The only way for the chamber to remain silent is if the echoes have not yet had time to bounce many times. That is, the chamber must be young. The universe behaves in a similar way. If it had existed forever, filled with stars that shone without end, then light would have had enough time to fill every corner of space. No amount of dust, no amount of distance, and no amount of thinning would be enough to prevent the sky from glowing. Darkness would be impossible. The very existence of darkness suggests that not all the light that could have arrived has arrived yet. This realization hints at something profound. Perhaps the cosmic container is not as old as people once assumed. Perhaps the universe has not existed long enough for light from the most distant stars to reach us. But this idea was still far beyond what astronomers of earlier centuries could fully grasp. To them, the universe was quiet, eternal, and unchanging. They had no reason to suspect that time itself might play a role in shaping the sky. Nevertheless, even in this early era, the cracks in the simple explanations were beginning to show. Dust could not be the answer. Distance alone could not solve the paradox, and the idea that light simply disappeared lacked any physical basis. The night sky stubbornly refused to match the expectations built upon an infinite, timeless cosmos. As these early attempts fell away, astronomers found themselves drifting toward a curious uncertainty. They had removed several possible answers, but the question remained. The darkness was still there, deep and quiet, resisting their explanations. In that resistance lay the beginnings of a new way of thinking, a sense that the universe might be more dynamic, more complex and more alive than they had previously imagined. This period of soft unravelling, when old answers fell away but new ones had not yet emerged, marked the moment when the paradox began to lead scientists toward a deeper truth, a truth that would eventually reveal that darkness was not a failure of the cosmos, but a clue woven into its very structure. As astronomers moved past the first, intuitive ideas about dust and distance, they began to linger on a more subtle question. What happens to light when it travels through the universe? Not in the sense of formulas or rigid rules, but in the gentle, almost philosophical sense of how a message moves across vast distances. Light, after all, is a kind of story, one told by stars carried by waves, travelling across the deep quiet of space. And for the night sky to remain dark in an infinite universe, that story would somehow need to fade, dissolve, or disappear along the way. But does light truly vanish? Or is that disappearance only an illusion created by assumptions about the universe itself? To explore this, imagine standing in a grand, empty hall. Your voice, when you speak, sends waves through the air. Those waves bounce off distant walls and return to you as echoes, soft, fading versions of your own words. If the hall is large enough, the echoes take time to return, overlapping as they travel back and forth. If you keep speaking, your voice fills the hall with a quiet hum of repeated sound. But one thing never happens: the sound does not simply vanish. It may soften, it may blend, it may shift into a low murmur, but it always remains. Sound waves, like light waves, cannot simply cease to exist without a cause. Now imagine that instead of sound in a hall, you consider light in the cosmos. Light spreads out as it travels, growing thinner and more widely dispersed, much like ripples expanding across a pond. The farther the ripple travels, the softer it becomes, but the ripple never disappears. It simply stretches. In an infinite universe filled with stars, the ripples of starlight would overlap infinitely, and the sky would glow with their combined energy. You would not see darkness, because the universe, like the grand hall full of echoes, would be saturated with accumulated light. This is the heart of the problem. In a static, eternal universe, light does not get lost. It does not fade into nothingness. It can be transformed, scattered, absorbed, re-emitted, but it cannot be permanently removed. Even if cosmic dust absorbs it, that dust eventually warms and glows, returning energy back into space. Even if some light is scattered, its new direction still contributes to the cosmic glow. No simple mechanism exists to make the light truly disappear. And so, in a universe that has existed forever, filled with stars that shine without end, the night sky should be blazing with the accumulated glow of every star that ever was. This realization weighed heavily on the minds of astronomers. If the universe were infinite and unchanging, there should be no darkness anywhere. And yet, darkness surrounds us. The discrepancy between expectation and reality hinted that something was wrong, not with light, but with the assumptions about the universe itself. At this stage, many thinkers still believed in a static cosmos, a universe that remained the same through all time. It was a comforting idea, like a quiet room where nothing moves unless you move it. But the more they thought about the paradox, the more the idea of a static universe began to feel fragile. If the universe had existed forever, would not all light have had enough time to reach us? Would not every corner of space be shining? The darkness suggested otherwise. Still, some astronomers tried to hold on to the static model. They wondered if perhaps light thinned out faster than expected, or if perhaps the stars were not as uniformly distributed as people assumed. Maybe the stars were clumped together, or arranged in layers, or hidden behind thick stretches of dust. Perhaps, they thought, pockets of empty space allowed the darkness to persist. But each of these ideas eventually dissolved under closer examination. Clumps of stars do not create darkness, they merely rearrange where the light comes from. Dust cannot stay cold enough to block light forever, and no arrangement of stars, no matter how uneven, could produce the kind of deep, pervasive darkness we see in the night sky. Not if the universe were infinite in age. The more scientists tried to rescue the static universe, the more it resisted them. It was like trying to explain why a room stays cold even though 1,000 small fires burn inside it. The explanations felt forced. They did not match the quiet reality above. The breakthrough came not from solving the paradox directly, but from realizing that perhaps the idea of a static universe, an unchanging container of stars, was fundamentally flawed. The universe might not be the still chamber they imagined. It might be more like a living, breathing space, expanding gently over time, altering the way light moves through it. If the cosmic chamber itself grew, then echoes of light might behave differently. They might stretch, thinning out until they drifted into wavelengths we cannot see. Or the chamber might have begun recently enough that not all the echoes have arrived yet. The night sky might be dark, not because light is lost, but because the universe has not yet existed long enough for light to fill it. This idea, that the darkness of the night sky might be tied to the age or evolution of the universe, was revolutionary. It suggested that space is not a silent box but a dynamic landscape, shaped by time, motion and change. It hinted that the cosmos might have a history, a beginning, and perhaps even an eventual fate. The early thinkers didn't yet have the tools to confirm this. They did not know about galaxies drifting away from us, or the gentle reddening of their light as space stretches. They did not yet imagine the universe as something that grows and evolves. But the failure of absorption-based explanations planted the seed of doubt. It whispered that the universe might not be the eternal stillness they once believed. The paradox was no longer just a mismatch between brightness and darkness. It was beginning to hint at a deeper truth. The night sky was telling a story about time. This shift, from thinking about stars and dust to thinking about the universe as a whole, marked a turning point. It set the stage for the next great insight, when astronomers would look outward and notice something extraordinary. The galaxies themselves were drifting apart. The cosmos was not still. It was stretching. And with that gentle stretch, the story of the dark night sky would begin to change forever. By the time astronomers reached the limits of dust, absorption, and the idea of lost light, something subtle had already begun to shift in their understanding. The quiet darkness above them, which once seemed like an ordinary backdrop to the stars, now felt like a contradiction tugging gently at the fabric of their theories. They had tried simple explanations and watched them fall away. They had tried to imagine light disappearing, only to realize that light does not vanish. It transforms, but it persists. The night sky, which had always felt so still, so constant, was beginning to whisper that the universe might not be as calm as it appeared. The next step, one that would eventually change everything, began with an unexpected observation. When astronomers in the early 20th century studied the light from distant galaxies, they expected it to look familiar, like the light from the stars in our own galaxy. But instead they found something unusual. The light was stretched, shifted toward the red end of the spectrum, in a way that could not be explained by dust or distance alone. It was as if the waves of light had been pulled, lengthened gently on their journey, like the slow deepening of a musical note when a violin string is loosened ever so slightly. This soft stretching of light, later known as redshift, became one of the first clues that the universe was not static at all. Instead, it was expanding. The space between galaxies was increasing, slowly but steadily, like a deep breath drawn out across billions of years. And as space expanded, the waves of light travelling through it were carried along, stretched into longer, softer forms. Light that once shone in bright, sharp colours arrived on Earth as a muted whisper, its energy thinned and smoothed over vast distances. To understand this intuitively, imagine painting a bright line on a rubber sheet. If the sheet is still, the line remains crisp and compact. But if you gently pull the sheet apart, the line stretches, its details soften, its colour thins. If you stretch the sheet far enough, the line might fade into a shade so subtle you can barely see it. This is what happens to light as it travels through an expanding universe. The waves do not fade because they tire. They fade because the space through which they move is slowly lengthening beneath them. For astronomers of the time, this realization was extraordinary. It meant that the universe itself was in motion. Everything, not just stars, not just galaxies, but the very stage on which they stood, was changing. If the universe was expanding, then it could not be infinite in age, because an eternal expansion would have stretched matter so thin that galaxies could never have formed. The universe must have been more compact in the past, denser and brighter, like a glowing seed from which all structure had grown. And if the universe was not eternal, then the entire premise of Olbers Paradox, the idea of infinite time, crumbled quietly under its own weight. The night sky was dark not because light was absorbed or lost, but because light had not had enough time to reach us. Many stars were simply too far away. Their messages were still on their way through an ever-stretching sea of space. But before astronomers could grasp the full meaning of this, they needed to understand what redshift truly implied. To help visualize it, think of a lighthouse shining across a calm ocean. Each beam of light travels as a wave, crest after crest, moving outward in graceful lines. Now imagine the ocean itself expanding beneath those waves. As the water stretches, the distance between the crests grows, the waves lengthen, their rhythm slows. When they finally reach the shore, they arrive as long, low swells instead of sharp, bright peaks. The energy has not disappeared, it has simply been spread thin. This is similar to what happens as galaxies drift apart. Their motion through expanding space gently pulls the light they emit into longer wavelengths. What began as bright starlight may arrive as a soft glow in colours too deep for the human eye to perceive. The universe might still be filled with light, but much of it would no longer shine in the narrow range of colours that we recognise as visible. This raised a profound question. If the universe was expanding, what did that imply about its past? Was there a time when everything had been closer together, when light had not yet been stretched into invisibility? Was the universe younger than expected? Could the darkness of the night sky be a reflection of the universe's age? The answers were not immediate, but the hints were growing stronger. The idea of a static, eternal universe was becoming harder to defend. The observations did not fit. The sky did not behave as a static sky should. Darkness persisted where brightness should have reigned, and the soft stretching of light from distant galaxies suggested that the universe itself was in motion, like a vast cosmic tide. As more data accumulated, the cracks in the old model widened. The notion of an unchanging cosmos, once so comforting, began to feel like a garment that no longer fit. The universe was not a still pond. It was a living sea, not a rigid container, but an expanding landscape. And if the universe was expanding, it might also be evolving. It might have a history, a beginning, a middle, and a future. This realization shifted the tone of the paradox. The darkness was no longer seen as a flaw in the universe's design. It was a signpost pointing toward a universe with a dynamic past. A universe that had been different once, denser, brighter, and younger. A universe that had grown and stretched over time until the light from distant places had softened into wavelengths beyond our sight. The journey to this understanding was slow, gentle, and filled with uncertainty. But it carried astronomers toward a turning point, a moment when they would no longer see the night sky as a static map of stars, but as a living archive of time itself. Every patch of darkness, Every faint glimmer, every silent space was part of a story unfolding across billions of years. And with this shift, the paradox that once seemed so troubling began to guide scientists toward one of the most profound discoveries in cosmology. The universe had a beginning. As astronomers traced the quiet clues hidden in the night sky, the paradox that once felt like a simple puzzle began to transform into something deeper, something almost philosophical. Dust had failed to explain the darkness. Absorption had failed. The idea of lost light had faded away like a mirage. And then came the discovery that the universe was expanding, an idea both elegant and unsettling. With expansion came the soft stretching of starlight, the gentle lengthening of its waves, the slow shift of bright colours into quieter, deeper hues. But even with this growing insight, the full resolution of the paradox had not yet arrived. The pieces were beginning to fall into place, but the picture was still incomplete. Before the great revelation that the universe had a beginning, astronomers found themselves standing on a delicate threshold. They sensed that the old assumptions were failing. They sensed that the darkness above them held a meaning far more profound than they had imagined. Yet they could not fully articulate it. It was as if they were listening to a distant melody, hearing its faint structure without yet discerning the entire song. To understand this moment of transition, imagine walking through a quiet forest just before dawn. The world is still dim. The outlines of trees are visible, but the landscape lacks colour. You can feel that light is coming, but it has not yet arrived. This was the state of cosmology in the early 20th century. The darkness of the night sky, once merely accepted as something ordinary, had taken on a new significance. It had become a clue, hinting that the universe was not the infinite, unchanging stage long assumed. The classical explanations had fallen apart one by one. The idea that dust could absorb infinite starlight collapsed under the realization that dust cannot stay cold forever. The notion that light simply fades dissolved when physicists understood that energy does not unravel without reason. And the belief in a static universe grew fragile when the redshift of galaxies revealed that space itself was stretching, very slowly, like taffy being pulled over unimaginable distances. Yet even with these insights, the puzzle was not entirely solved. Many astronomers were reluctant to abandon the idea of an eternal cosmos. The notion that the universe might have begun at a specific moment felt strange, almost too bold to accept. It implied a cosmic origin, a time when everything, every star, every galaxy, every atom, had been compressed into a single, dense state. It implied that the universe had a childhood, perhaps even a moment resembling birth. At this stage in history, the observations and theories were beginning to suggest something extraordinary. The darkness of the night sky was not merely the absence of light, it was a sign of youth, a sign that the universe had not existed long enough for starlight from every corner of space to reach us. But this idea required a profound shift in how scientists imagined the cosmos. To some, this shift felt unsettling. For centuries, the infinite, eternal universe had been comforting in its simplicity. Eternity requires no beginning and no explanation. A cosmos without a starting point felt calm, self-contained, like a still pond that has always existed. Introducing a beginning, a moment in which everything rose out of a dense, energetic state, felt disruptive. It suggested a universe in motion, a universe that evolves and changes, a universe with a timeline. The emotional weight of this shift should not be underestimated. It is easy to imagine science as a purely analytical endeavour, but the truth is often more human. Scientists of the past were not immune to the comfort of familiar ideas. Many resisted the new picture at first, not because the evidence was weak, but because the implications were overwhelming. Accepting a universe with a beginning meant abandoning an entire worldview. It required rethinking time itself. But the clues kept coming. The redshift of galaxies showed that space was expanding. The dimness of distant galaxies revealed that light was being stretched into wavelengths the eye cannot see. And the persistent darkness of the night sky whispered that the universe could not have existed forever. If it had, then every corner of the sky would have been bright. Darkness would not exist, only light. Slowly the realization began to settle. The darkness was not a puzzle of stars. It was a puzzle of time, a puzzle of beginnings and distances, a puzzle that could only be solved by recognizing that the universe itself had not existed long enough for distant starlight to arrive. The more astronomers thought about it, the more the idea gained weight. The night sky was a kind of shadow cast by time itself. This understanding carried with it a subtle beauty. It suggested that the stars we see are only the nearest messengers of light. Beyond them lies a vast ocean of starlight still travelling, still making its way toward us across the stretching fabric of space. The darkness above us is not empty. It is full of light that has not yet arrived, light softened into wavelengths too deep for our eyes to perceive. The night sky is dark because the universe is still unfolding. It has not yet told its entire story. The moment before the revelation was therefore a period of quiet tension, an in-between place where astronomers sensed that a profound idea was approaching. They stood on the edge of something immense, like travellers at the boundary of a new land, seeing only its outline through a veil of mist. The classical explanations had been set aside. The universe was no longer assumed to be infinite in age or eternally unchanging. Something new was about to emerge, something that would not only explain the darkness, but also illuminate the history of the cosmos in a way no one had imagined before. The next step in this journey would bring the final piece into place. The understanding that the universe had a beginning, and that the darkness we see each night is a reminder of that beginning. A reminder that the cosmos is young compared to its infinite possibilities. A reminder that light, though fast, has not yet reached us from every corner of space. A reminder that we live inside a universe still expanding, still cooling, still growing. When the idea of an expanding universe finally began to take shape, it did not arrive with thunder or fanfare. It emerged quietly, almost cautiously, like a dawn that begins not with a burst of light but with a softening of the darkness. The more astronomers studied the sky, the more they realized that the assumptions they once held dear, eternity, stillness, infinite age, were no longer compatible with what the universe revealed. The redshift of distant galaxies whispered that space was stretching. The persistence of darkness spoke of limits, and slowly, gently, a remarkable idea began to form. The universe might have had a beginning. To appreciate the significance of this, imagine rewinding the expansion of the universe as though you were watching a vast cosmic film in reverse. Galaxies that now drift calmly apart would begin to draw closer. The fabric of space itself would contract. Distances would shrink. Light that has been stretched into long, soft waves would return to brighter, more energetic colours. If you continue rewinding far enough, everything the universe contains, every star, every planet, every atom, would trace back to a smaller and smaller state. Eventually, all matter, all light, all energy would be compressed into a single dense, radiant point. A point so packed with warmth and potential that it would resemble the heart of a star, but magnified to a scale beyond imagination. This idea, which would later be known as the Big Bang, was not about an explosion in space but an expansion of space. a beginning where the universe itself emerged from an incredibly hot and luminous state and began to grow, cool and unfold. It was a concept unlike anything astronomers had considered before, and yet it offered the perfect answer to the paradox that had haunted them for centuries. If the universe had a beginning, then it had not existed forever. And if it had not existed forever, then starlight had not had endless time to reach us. What appears as darkness in the night sky is partly a result of youth. The universe simply has not lived long enough for light from the farthest reaches to arrive. To express this gently, imagine arriving in a city just as evening begins. Many of the windows in the tallest buildings are already glowing warmly, but others, those farther away or belonging to people who have not yet returned home, remain dark. The darkness does not mean those rooms are empty. It simply means their lights have not been switched on yet. In this way, the night sky resembles that city. The stars close to us shine brightly. The nearest galaxies send us their soft glow, but many more lie too far away, their light still travelling across expanding space, not yet reaching our eyes. The cosmic windows are not dark because they lack light. They are dark because the light is still on its way. The idea that the universe has a finite age can be described without symbols or precise numbers by imagining it as a limited window of visibility. Our view into the cosmos is shaped by how far light can travel within the lifetime of the universe. Light moves astonishingly fast, yet even at that speed, it can only cover so much distance in a given amount of time. If the universe has existed for what we would describe as 13 or 14 billion years, then the farthest light that can reach us must come from regions no more distant than the distance light can travel within that span. Beyond that limit lies a realm we cannot see, not because it is empty, but because its light has not reached us yet. This conceptual boundary is not a wall or a physical edge. It is simply the limit imposed by time. Light needs time to cross the vastness of the cosmos, and that time has been finite. This means that, although the universe itself may extend far beyond what we can observe, our personal cosmic horizon is defined by the age of the universe and the speed at which light travels. Beyond that horizon, galaxies continue to shine, but their light will not reach us until much later, if it reaches us at all. This alone is enough to explain why the sky is not bright everywhere. The stars that could have filled the sky with brilliance have not had enough time to send their messages across the enormous distances. But time's role in shaping the darkness does not stop there. The beginning of the universe also implies that stars themselves have lifetimes. In a cosmos with infinite age, stars would have been shining forever, and they would have had endless generations of stellar ancestors. But in a universe with a beginning, stars are younger than the universe itself. They form in cycles. Clouds of gas collapse into new stars. Those stars burn for millions or billions of years, and then they fade, giving rise to new generations. The night sky, therefore, is not filled with infinite layers of starlight. It contains only as many layers as the universe has had time to produce. Many stars have not yet been born. Many that once existed have finished their life cycles. And the total amount of starlight that exists in the cosmos is limited by this ongoing rhythm of creation and extinction. This paints the night sky in a new light, quiet, gentle, and profoundly meaningful. Darkness is not a failure of the universe to illuminate itself. It is a signature of its history. It tells us that the universe had a beginning, a time when no stars existed, a time when light had not yet begun its long journey. It tells us that we see only the stars that have had enough time to shine and enough time to send their messages across the expanding ocean of space. If the universe were infinitely old, Every patch of sky would be lit by the accumulated glow of countless generations of stars. But because the universe is young on cosmic scales, most of the starlight that could exist has not yet reached us. The darkness is not an empty canvas. It is a record of time. It shows us how long the universe has lived and how far light can travel within that span. As the idea of a universe with a beginning took hold, the paradox of the dark night sky began to dissolve. What once seemed contradictory now made perfect sense. The story of cosmic history had finally entered the conversation, and with it came the realization that the darkness we see each night is not a mystery to be feared, but a clue to be understood. Once the idea of a universe with a beginning settled into scientific thought, another concept slowly emerged, one that would help complete the solution to the dark night sky. It is a gentle idea, one that doesn't require equations or diagrams, but instead invites you to imagine light as a traveller moving across a landscape that is both ancient and ever-changing. This idea is the cosmic horizon, the boundary of everything we can in principle see. To picture it, imagine standing in a wide meadow on a fog-kissed morning. As you look around, you see the field stretch outward in every direction, but only to a certain distance. Beyond that, the haze shrouds everything. The meadow doesn't end where your vision ends. It continues farther than you can see. The limit you perceive is the distance the morning light has been able to travel through the fog. The boundary is not physical, it's observational, shaped entirely by the conditions of light and time. The cosmic horizon is similar. It is not a wall or a fence around the universe, it is simply the farthest distance from which light has had time to reach us since the universe began. Because light travels at a finite speed, and because the universe has existed for a limited amount of time, there is a maximum distance from which we can receive information. Anything beyond that distance remains unseen, not because it is empty, but because its light has not yet arrived. To soften this idea even further, imagine a lake that has just frozen overnight. You stand in the centre and listen closely. If someone taps the ice far away, the sound will take time to travel to you. Your horizon of hearing is shaped by the time sound needs to cross the frozen surface. The farther the tap, the longer the wait. If the lake formed only moments ago, there will be entire regions where no sound has had time to reach you. The silence in those regions does not imply emptiness. It simply tells you the lake is young. In the same way, the night sky's darkness whispers that the universe is young, at least compared to the infinite possibilities of time. There are galaxies and stars whose light has been travelling for billions of years and has finally reached our eyes. But there are many more, countless more, whose light is still en route, drifting across the quietly expanding fabric of space, their stories still unread. Because the universe has a finite age, our cosmic horizon holds only a portion of everything that exists. And this is where the solution to Olbers Paradox becomes clearer. In an infinite, eternal universe, the horizon would not exist. Light from all regions, no matter how distant, would have had time to fill every corner of the sky. The darkness would be washed out by the overwhelming glow of infinite starlight. But in a universe with a finite age, the horizon acts like a curtain. Not one that hides things actively, but one that simply reflects the limited time light has had to travel. Everything beyond that line remains dark from our perspective, not because it lacks light, but because light is still on its way. This boundary also carries a deeper story. Not only does the horizon reflect the age of the universe, it also reflects the way the universe has been expanding. As space stretches, galaxies move farther apart, and the distance their light must travel grows longer. This creates a cosmic race between light and the expansion of space itself. Light travels swiftly, but expansion is tireless. Over time, some regions are carried away faster than their light can catch us, meaning their glow will never reach Earth. These regions exist, they shine, they evolve, but from our standpoint, they are beyond the horizon. Now imagine your own vision of the sky as a gently expanding bubble. Inside the bubble is everything whose light has reached you. Outside is everything you cannot see yet, everything waiting in the deeper silence of space. This bubble grows with time because light continues to travel, reaching us from greater and greater distances. As the universe grows older, the cosmic horizon stretches outward, revealing more of the vastness beyond. But because the universe is expanding at the same time, some regions slip farther away, so far that their light will never catch up. The bubble expands, but the universe expands faster still. This interplay between time, distance, and the stretching of space creates a profound and delicate balance. It also helps explain why the sky is dark. The visible universe, the part within our horizon, is vast, but it is limited. Beyond it lies an ocean of galaxies whose light will never reach us, whose glow will never contribute to our night sky. In the classic version of Olbers Paradox, every region of the universe contributed its light without restriction. But in the real universe, only the regions within our horizon share their starlight with us. Everything beyond remains hidden. To express this softly, the darkness at night is not a lack of stars. It is the shadow of a horizon shaped by time, a horizon that marks the reach of ancient messages still travelling across the cosmic sea. Each star we see has sent its light long ago, and each star we do not see is one whose light has not yet arrived, or may never arrive at all. This idea invites us to think of light more personally. Every beam of starlight that reaches your eyes is part of a journey billions of years long. Some of the light you see tonight began its travel when early galaxies first formed. Some began when Earth itself was young. Some left its star before our sun even existed. Every photon that reaches you has crossed a universe that is expanding beneath it, stretching its path, lengthening its wave, guiding it toward your place under the sky. And every photon that has not yet reached us is still on the way, still weaving through the dark fabric of space, still shaping the horizon that defines what we can see. The cosmic horizon also adds a layer of poetry to the night sky. When you look upward, you're not just looking into distance, you are looking into time. Each speck of light is a glimpse of the past, preserved in waves that have travelled longer than any journey on Earth. The darkness between those lights is a reminder of how far the universe extends beyond what we can observe. With the cosmic horizon understood, the paradox that troubled astronomers for centuries becomes softer, easier to hold. The sky is dark because the universe is finite in age, because light travels at a finite speed, and because space stretches gently, carrying distant galaxies beyond our reach. With the idea of a cosmic horizon softly settling into place, astronomers found themselves tracing an even deeper thread woven through the darkness of the night sky. It wasn't enough to know that the universe had a beginning, or that light needs time to cross the vastness of space. There was something else at work, something subtle, something almost hidden in the way starlight changes as it travels. If light does not disappear, and if the universe is not old enough for all distant starlight to reach us, then why does the light that does arrive seem so faint, so gentle, so softened by the time it touches our eyes? The answer lies in the expansion of space itself, a concept that can feel abstract or distant until we bring it into the soft imagery that guides us tonight. Imagine, for a moment, that space is like a great and quietly stretching fabric, something thin, delicate and flexible. The galaxies are not objects moving through this fabric like boats across a sea. Instead, they're like small beads sewn into the cloth. As the fabric stretches, the beads move farther apart, not because they're travelling, but because the cloth between them is expanding. Now imagine a wave of light travelling across this stretching fabric. Each wave begins with a certain spacing, crest, valley, like a gentle rhythm in the air. But as the fabric stretches beneath it, that spacing is slowly pulled apart. The wave becomes longer. Its rhythm softens. A colour that once shone brilliantly may dim into something deeper, something less energetic. This stretching of light is what astronomers call redshift. Though no symbol or formula is needed to understand it, it is simply the softening of a wave as the fabric carrying it expands. You can imagine this in another way. Picture a violin string tuned to a bright, clear note. If you loosen the string gently, gradually, the note deepens. It becomes softer, lower, a hum rather than a chime. The energy of the sound is being spread across a longer vibration. Light behaves the same way. A stretched wave becomes a deeper colour, and if the universe stretches enough, that wave can drift into tones too deep for the human eye to sense at all. Infrared waves, microwave waves, colours the night sky holds in abundance but that our eyes cannot see. This stretching of light has profound consequences for the darkness above us. Even if distant galaxies have been shining steadily for billions of years, much of their light arrives on Earth as gentle waves elongated beyond our vision. The night sky is not empty. It is simply full of light whose colours have slipped beyond the narrow band our eyes can detect. The universe hums with radiation, soft, ancient, almost musical. But that hum lies in wavelengths that require special instruments to reveal. To feel this intuitively, imagine a ripple moving across a pond. Close by, the ripple is crisp and clear, but as it travels outward, the pond itself widens, and the ripple stretches into something broader and gentler. If the pond is expanding while the ripple travels, the ripple becomes wider still. By the time it reaches the shore, it may be just a soft rise and fall of water, no longer a sharp wave. The energy is still there, but it has been smoothed out over a broader area. This is what happens to starlight as it crosses an expanding universe. This stretching also means that galaxies once much brighter now contribute little to the visible sky. Their light has been elongated until it becomes invisible, present but hidden in deeper colours. If the universe did not expand, their light would remain in the visible band for our eyes to see, adding to the brightness of the sky. But because space stretches, the visible contribution of distant galaxies diminishes. The sky remains dark because the universe gently shifts its light into hues beyond human senses. To express it softly, expansion dims the cosmos without extinguishing it. It transforms bright, youthful light into ancient murmurs. It spreads energy across the vastness of space until it becomes something that does not illuminate our sky, yet still exists as a fundamental whisper of the universe's history. This understanding was another profound shift. It meant that the darkness between the stars is not a sign of absence, but a sign of transformation. Light that once glowed as starlight now drifts across the universe as a long, low hum in the background, invisible to our eyes but detectable to sensitive instruments. If our vision could stretch beyond its natural limits, if our eyes could see infrared light or microwave waves, the night sky would not look black at all. It would shimmer with the glow of distant galaxies and the faint ancient radiance left behind from the earliest moments of cosmic history. And here lies an essential part of resolving Olbers Paradox. In the traditional picture of an infinite static universe, every star contributes its visible light fully, without loss. But in the real universe, visible light does not remain visible forever. As space expands, it carries the light into deeper wavelengths, softening its brightness. The universe is not withholding its glow, it is stretching it into something our eyes cannot detect. This stretching also hints at something more subtle. The farther away a galaxy is, the more its light is stretched by the time it reaches us. Very distant galaxies are so far that their light has been stretched into wavelengths far beyond visible light. Their glow contributes to the sky, but not in a form we can see. Only a narrow region of electromagnetic colours, the tiny slice we call visible light, reaches us unchanged from nearby stars and galaxies. Everything else has drifted into the long, gentle waves of the unseen spectrum. This is why the night sky seems so tranquil and empty. It is not empty at all. It is a tapestry woven from light at many wavelengths, most of them hidden from the human eye. The dark canvas is actually filled with quiet radiance, light stretched by the universe's expansion into waves that pass softly around us, just beyond our perception. When astronomers realized this, the paradox that once seemed impossible began to dissolve. They understood that darkness is not a failure of the cosmos, but a feature of its growth. They understood that the universe dims its own starlight through expansion. They understood that the visible sky reveals only a small part of a much greater unseen glow. This realization brought them close to the full answer. With the finite age of the universe, the cosmic horizon limiting what we can see, and the expansion of space stretching light beyond our vision, the stage was set for the final piece, the ancient faint light that still fills the universe today, a soft afterglow of creation that explains why the sky is dark only to our limited senses. As astronomers pieced together the story of a universe with a beginning, and as they learned how space stretches and carries light into deeper, quieter colours, a final realization awaited them, one that would gently complete the answer to the dark night sky. It was the recognition that the universe is filled with light, but most of that light no longer glows in the colours our eyes can see. The darkness above us is not a great emptiness. It is a veil drawn by our own limited senses, a veil beneath which the cosmos is glowing softly in wavelengths too deep for human eyes. To see how this happens, imagine a great choir singing a beautiful harmony. If you stand nearby, the voices are clear, bright, warm tones layered together. But now imagine walking farther and farther away. The notes begin to blend and stretch. The high tones soften. The crisp edges of every sound melt into a gentle hum. Eventually, when you're far enough, the entire choir becomes a single low vibration, a barely audible thrumming, still present but transformed. This is what happens to light in an expanding universe. What begins as bright starlight travels across vast distances, carried on waves that lengthen gently as space stretches. By the time this ancient light reaches us, the once vivid colours of early galaxies have softened into hues beyond our vision. To understand the depth of this transformation, imagine the journey of light from a galaxy billions of years away. When that light first leaves its stars, it shines brightly, perhaps in a blue or white colour that would be dazzling up close. But as it travels, the fabric of space stretches quietly, like a slow, continuous breath. The waveforms of the starlight are pulled along with that breath. The crests of the waves drift apart. The colour of the light shifts into deeper tones. At first, the light might slip into the red, still visible, but warmer. Then it moves beyond red into the infrared, a colour our eyes cannot detect but that some animals and instruments can sense. And if the galaxy lies very far away, its light may be stretched even further into microwaves, the gentle, low-frequency waves that carry almost no visible brightness at all. The universe is full of these waves. They pass around us constantly, like an invisible breeze of ancient radiation. But our eyes, delicate and narrow in their range, cannot perceive them. This limitation creates the illusion of darkness. If humanity could see in infrared or microwave light, the night sky would glow everywhere. It would appear not as a sparse scattering of stars, but as a shimmering field of warmth and energy. Every direction would reveal the faint afterglow of distant galaxies, still singing across billions of years. The most profound example of this hidden glow is the cosmic, microwave background, a soft, ancient light left over from the earliest moments of the universe. You can imagine it as the dim ember light remaining after a great fire has burned low. When the universe was young, it was filled with a warm, brilliant brightness, a kind of gentle radiance that stretched through space like a luminous fog. But as the universe expanded and cooled, this bright fog softened into a faint glow of microwaves. Today, that glow bathes the entire sky. It is everywhere, in every direction, perfectly even, like a whisper from the moment the universe first became transparent. If our eyes were tuned to microwave light, the night would never appear dark again. It would be filled with a soft, uniform glow, a dim, ancient radiance left from the birth of everything we know. The cosmic microwave background, or the first light of the universe, is a reminder that the darkness above us is only an illusion created by the narrowness of our senses. The sky is glowing all the time. We simply lack the ability to see it without special instruments. This understanding changes the way we view the night. Instead of seeing darkness as a void, we begin to see it as a canvas painted with invisible colours. The stars we see are only the brightest brushstrokes, the ones that remain in the visible band after crossing space. Everything else, the stretched starlight, the infrared glow of galaxies, the gentle microwave hum of the early universe, lies beneath those bright strokes, forming the deeper hidden texture of the cosmic picture. The paradox that once troubled astronomers, the paradox that asked why the night sky is dark, begins to unravel completely with this insight. The sky is not dark because the universe lacks light. It is dark because the light has transformed. It has been softened by time and distance. It has been stretched by expansion. It has been carried into wavelengths that the human eye cannot perceive. When those invisible wavelengths are translated into visible colours by scientific instruments, the universe reveals itself to be bathed in a gentle glow. But our natural senses cannot detect this glow, so the sky appears silent and shadowed. This leads to an emotional truth as well as a scientific one. When you stand beneath the night sky, you're not looking into emptiness. You're looking into a universe filled with ancient light that has travelled across cosmic history to reach you, light that carries the memory of stars long gone and galaxies just beginning. You're surrounded by brightness, even if your eyes only see the darkness between stars. In this sense, the night sky is a reminder of both our limitations and our connections to the cosmos. The light we cannot see is still there, whispering from the edges of time. The darkness is only darkness to our eyes. To the universe, it is full of the quiet hum of energy, the subtle glow of creation, the soft radiation left behind when everything first bloomed into existence. And so, the final piece falls gently into place. The sky is dark not because the universe is empty, not because stars are few, but because most of the universe's light has been stretched and cooled into invisible colours. The cosmos is glowing, but we do not see its glow. By the time astronomers gathered each piece of the puzzle, finite age, expanding space, stretched light, and a horizon defined by time, The paradox that once seemed impossible had begun to dissolve into something wondrous. The night sky's darkness was no longer a contradiction. It was a signature, a message, a quiet truth written across the heavens in the deepest ink. And like most truths in cosmology, it was far richer, far more intricate, and far more poetic than anyone expected. At first glance, the darkness seems to say, there is not enough light. But once we follow the story hidden inside that darkness, it becomes clear that the opposite is true. There is so much light, so much activity, so much history, that the night sky becomes a window into the universe's evolution, rather than a blank, silent void. The darkness is not the absence of stars. It is the result of a dynamic, changing cosmos that is still unfolding. To understand this new perspective, imagine the universe as a living tapestry, one woven from threads of time, light, and motion. Each thread plays a role in shaping what we see when we look up. The first thread is the age of the universe. If the cosmos were infinitely old, the night sky would indeed be bright. Every star would have had endless time to shine, and every patch of sky would be filled with their combined glow. But the universe is not infinitely old. It has lived for what we might describe gently as a little over 13 billion years, a span vast enough to produce galaxies, stars, planets, and life, yet short enough to leave large regions of the sky unlit by distant starlight still en route. The second thread is the cosmic horizon, the limit of what light has reached us. This horizon is like a softly glowing circle around our viewpoint, defined not by distance alone, but by time. Beyond that horizon, countless stars and galaxies shine, but their light has not had enough time to cross the universe to us. Their glow is real, but it remains hidden. The darkness is therefore a boundary between what the universe has revealed and what it has not revealed yet. The third thread is the expansion of space. As the universe stretches, the waves of light travelling through it stretch too. Their colours shift, their brightness softens. What once would have been brilliant visible light arrives on Earth as a faint whisper in deeper wavelengths. Much of the universe's brightness has drifted into infrared and microwave hues, colours that lie hidden from our eyes. The sky remains dark not because these colours are absent, but because they have slipped beyond our natural vision. The fourth thread is the life cycle of stars. Stars are not infinite. They are born, they shine, and they fade. Some stars near the edge of the observable universe have only recently formed. Others have already ended their lives in quiet embers or spectacular bursts. The night sky contains the accumulated light of stars that exist within our window of visibility, not an endless accumulation of light from all stars that ever lived. If the universe were older, if stars had been shining endlessly, then even their faded remnants would fill the sky with brilliance. But the universe is young on cosmic terms, and it shows in the darkness. When these four threads are woven together, they form a tapestry more beautiful than a simple bright sky ever could have offered. They reveal that the universe is not a static glow but a dynamic story, one that changes with time, distance, and motion. The darkness becomes a clue, a record of the cosmos's youth, its expansion, and its evolving light. To hold this idea gently, imagine a vast concert hall filled with musicians. If the concert had been going on forever, every seat would be filled with sound, and the hall would be saturated with music from every direction. But if the concert began only recently, some instruments might not have started playing yet. Some melodies would still be travelling across the hall. You would hear the closest instruments clearly, while the farther ones might sound faint or distant. The quiet spaces between notes would be part of the music story, revealing the hall's size, the timing of entrances, and the rhythm of the performance. The night sky is like that concert. These stars we see are the nearby instruments. The galaxies whose light has been stretched into invisibility are the distant players, still performing in deeper tones. The cosmic horizon marks the boundary of the music we've had time to hear. And the darkness between the stars is the space where melodies have not yet reached us. This understanding transforms the paradox into a profound revelation about the universe's nature. The night sky is dark not because the cosmos lacks stars, but because the cosmos is alive, expanding, evolving, cooling, unfolding across time. The darkness is the result of motion and growth. It is the imprint of a universe that had a beginning and has been stretching ever since. If the universe were static and eternal, the sky would be bright. But because the universe has a history, a beginning marked by a bright, dense, radiant state, the light we see today is only part of a much larger story. The rest lies stretched into wavelengths our eyes cannot detect or still, travelling across the expanding sea of space. To express this softly, the night is dark not because the universe is empty, but because the universe is young and full of motion. Space is stretching, time is unfolding, stars are being born and fading, light is travelling and transforming. The darkness is simply the shadow cast by these processes, a shadow shaped by the rhythm of cosmic evolution. And so the paradox becomes an answer. The darkness of the night sky reveals a universe with a beginning, a universe that grows, a universe whose light is always on the move, a universe where visibility is shaped by time, distance, and transformation. When you stand beneath the night sky, you're not looking into a void. You're looking into the living record of the cosmos's history. When you gaze up at the night sky, it is easy to think of darkness as the natural state of the universe, a vast empty canvas pierced by a handful of shimmering stars. But once we know how the universe actually behaves, the idea of darkness begins to shift. What appears black to our eyes is not truly empty at all. The heavens are flooded with light, soft, ancient, transformed light, spreading through space like a quiet ocean whose waves lie outside the narrow colours we can perceive. The night sky, in truth, is bright in ways our senses never evolved to notice. To understand this, imagine the electromagnetic spectrum, the full family of light, as a grand symphony stretching across an enormous stage. We humans can hear only a tiny range of notes in this vast performance. Our eyes can detect a narrow band of colours, from deep red to violet, a small slice of the spectrum, much like hearing only a few keys from a piano that spans many octaves. Everything outside that small range is invisible to us, not because it isn't there, but because our senses simply cannot register it. The universe, however, performs across all the octaves, not just the handful we can hear. One of the brightest contributors to this invisible symphony is the extragalactic background light, a soft glow composed of light from all the galaxies the universe has ever produced. Some of this light is in the ultraviolet, a colour too energetic for our eyes. Some is in the infrared, a gentle warmth radiated by galaxies whose starlight has been stretched by the universe's expansion. Our eyes cannot detect these wavelengths, but they bathe the universe in a subtle radiance that is constantly present. If you could see an infrared, the night sky would look radically different. Galaxies that now appear faint or invisible would glow with quiet reddish warmth. Clouds of dust and gas, once dark silhouettes blocking starlight, would shine softly, revealing their shapes as they emit heat into space. You would see the Milky Way not as a pale stripe, but as a richly textured river of glowing dust, sculpted by temperature and star formation. Every direction would hold a gentle hue, like embers scattered across an endless hearth. Other invisible contributors fill the sky as well. Hydrogen, the universe's most abundant element, absorbs energetic ultraviolet light from young stars. After absorbing that light, hydrogen clouds re-emit the energy in gentler colours, spreading faint glows across space. To our eyes, these glows are invisible, yet they quietly illuminate the cosmos like lanterns wrapped in silk. But the most astonishing invisible glow of all is woven into the very fabric of the sky, the cosmic microwave background. This faint radiation is the leftover warmth from the universe's earliest epoch, the soft afterglow of a time when the cosmos was still young and filled with a bright, hot fog of particles and light. As the universe expanded and cooled, this ancient radiation softened into a faint microwave hum. It now fills all of space uniformly, like the quiet echo of a single cosmic note struck billions of years ago. If human eyes could see microwave light, the night sky would never feel dark again. Instead of emptiness, you would see a smooth, glowing dome surrounding you in every direction, evenly bright and beautifully uniform. It would resemble a warm mist of light, neither harsh nor sharp, but steady and enveloping. The entire sky would glow with a gentle radiance, an ember preserved from the universe's first moments. This microwave glow is not dim in any absolute sense. In fact, it is incredibly abundant. It is simply tuned to a frequency far below what our eyes can detect. Our vision evolved to interpret a narrow range of wavelengths, the ones best suited for life on Earth, where the sun dominates our daily experience. The rest of the cosmic symphony goes unnoticed. When we look up at what seems to be darkness, we are merely witnessing the silence within our limited sensory range. And this revealed something profound. The darkness of the night sky is not the universe's truth. It is our perception's limitation. The cosmos shines constantly in all directions across many wavelengths. What we see is only the faintest outline of a deeper brilliance. Imagine then that you could tune your eyes to different wavelengths, the way you might turn the dial of a radio to catch a new station. As you tune through infrared, ultraviolet, microwaves and beyond, the appearance of the sky transforms again and again. Nebulae bloom in unexpected colours. Galaxies brighten and dim depending on the wavelength. A region that looks empty in visible light might reveal itself as dense with glowing dust, or radiant with heat from distant stars. In microwave light, everything becomes a uniform glow. The universe becomes soft, luminous and full. This concept, this idea that the night sky holds hidden brilliance, helps knit together the full solution to Olbers Paradox. Earlier, we learned that the universe has a finite age, a cosmic horizon, and a stretching fabric that lengthens the waves of light. Each of these elements dims the visible sky in its own gentle way. But the invisible universe contains the light that has been shifted or transformed. In other words, the universe is bright, just not to our eyes. In this invisible ocean of light, every galaxy contributes. Even those whose brightness has been softened into the longest waves still add their subtle voices to the cosmic symphony. The night sky is alive, with radiation humming quietly at wavelengths we cannot see. The darkness is simply the silence within our narrow auditory range of the universe's orchestra. Knowing this adds a fragile beauty to the experience of looking up at night. When you see the stars scattered across a dark sky, you're witnessing only the brightest notes of a much larger composition. Everything else, the soft infrared warmth of galaxies, the ultraviolet glow of star-forming regions, the ancient microwave afterglow of creation, remains hidden behind the threshold of vision, shaping the universe without being directly seen. The darkness is not void, it is depth. It is the unseen brilliance of the cosmos pouring through wavelengths that our eyes were never designed to perceive. And with this, the paradox that once seemed impossible becomes something serene. The night sky is dark because we are human, with senses tuned to a narrow octave of cosmic music. Beyond that octave, the universe is shining in every direction. By the time we reach this point in our quiet journey, the night sky no longer feels like a simple dome of shadow punctured by stars. It begins to feel like something more, an unfolding story, a layered tapestry, a field of signs left behind by a universe that is always in motion. The darkness itself becomes one of the most revealing parts of the cosmos. It is a kind of cosmic ink, a place where the universe writes truths too subtle to be expressed in bright strokes. And as we drift into the philosophical side of Olbers Paradox, the darkness starts to speak in a new way. One of the most profound realizations that emerges from this paradox is that darkness is not the absence of meaning. It is the presence of time. When you look up at the night sky and see the countless gaps between the stars, you are not seeing emptiness. You are seeing a record of the universe's youth. The regions that shine are the regions whose light has reached you. The regions that remain dark are the ones whose light is still travelling, still on its way across the vast and stretching fabric of space. The night sky is therefore not a map of where stars are, but a map of where their messages have arrived. This idea invites a deep shift in perspective. We often think of the universe as a place, something vast and cold and filled with distant points of light. But the darkness reminds us that the universe is also a story shaped by time, motion, and change. The sky is not a snapshot of space, it is a portrait of history. Every star you see is a glimpse of the past. Every patch of darkness is a chapter that has not yet been opened. To rest with this idea, imagine holding a lantern in a wide field at night. The lantern illuminates the grass around you, revealing the blades in intricate detail. But beyond that circle of light, everything fades into shadow. You might assume the field ends where the darkness begins, but that is only an illusion. The field continues outward, full of life and texture, even if you cannot see it yet. The limit is not in the field, it is in the reach of the lantern. In the same way, the cosmic horizon, the boundary of what we can see, is not the edge of the universe. It is merely the edge of the universe that has had time to reveal itself. Darkness then becomes a reminder of our position in the unfolding story of the cosmos. It tells us that we are part of a universe still young enough that much of its light has not yet arrived. It tells us that the stars we see are only a fraction of what exists, a faint whisper of a much vaster chorus. It tells us that knowledge itself is limited not by what exists, but by what has had time to reach us. There is also something quietly humbling about this. We often imagine ourselves as explorers of the universe, gazing into the infinite. But the darkness reveals that we have only just opened the first pages of the cosmic book. The rest of the pages, the stories of countless galaxies, the glow of uncounted stars, the light from regions beyond our horizon, remain unread. In this sense, the night sky is not an answer, it is an invitation. This invitation becomes even more profound when we consider the role of motion. A static universe would have painted the sky in uniform brightness. A universe without change would have filled every point with light. But our universe is not static. It stretches, breathes, evolves. It transforms its own light. It shifts its colours. It creates stars and destroys them. It radiates warmth in wavelengths too deep for our senses. The darkness is the visible imprint of this constant motion. It is what happens when a universe refuses to stay still. And in that motion, something quietly beautiful emerges. The darkness between the stars is not a failure to shine, but a sign of life. It is the trace left behind by the universe's expansion. It is the echo of light stretched into silence. It is the memory of a beginning still audible as a faint hum in the background. The night sky is not dark because nothing is there. It is dark because everything is moving. There is a philosophical serenity in this idea. It suggests that absence can be meaningful, that silence can contain truth, that the parts of the universe we cannot see may be just as important as the parts we can. It reminds us that our senses are narrow windows shaped by evolution to interpret a world illuminated by a single nearby star. But the cosmos is not obligated to stay within those boundaries. It paints its story across wavelengths we cannot perceive, across scales we cannot measure, across timescales far beyond our own. When you sit beneath the stars and feel the calm weight of the night around you, you're experiencing something that carries the full history of the universe. The darkness is a footprint of the cosmos as it grows. The faint glow of distant galaxies is the echo of their journey. The invisible hum of ancient radiation is the afterglow of creation itself, and you, sitting quietly beneath all of it, are part of the same unfolding story. This makes the paradox not a problem, but a revelation. It reveals that the universe is not a perfect mathematical structure that glows with constant light, but a living, changing entity. It reveals that light and darkness are partners, each telling a part of the whole. And it reveals that what we call emptiness often holds more depth than what we call brightness. Perhaps the most gentle truth behind the night sky is this. When you look at the darkness, you're looking not into a void, but into time itself. You're seeing the space where light has not yet arrived. Light that may be travelling still, carrying stories from places beyond your horizon. The darkness becomes a reminder of patience, of distance, of scale. It invites you to breathe slowly, to let your thoughts expand outward, to imagine the light that is still on its way. As our journey through Olbers Paradox comes to a close, imagine yourself stepping outside on a calm night. The air is still. The world has quieted. Above you stretches the same sky that stirred questions in ancient poets, inspired early astronomers, puzzled great thinkers, and led modern cosmology into new eras of discovery. Yet tonight, that sky may feel different than before. Not brighter, not darker, but deeper, filled with meanings that sleep quietly in the spaces between the stars. You begin by lifting your gaze upward. The night seems calm, almost simple from a distance. A soft darkness, punctuated by countless points of light. But now you understand that what your eyes see is only a small part of what the universe is showing you. A star in the corner of your vision might be shining with light that began its journey before humans existed on Earth. Another might be sending you photons that left during the age of early mammals, and between them, where you once saw only empty blackness, lies a sea of wavelengths humming gently outside your range of vision. This simple view of the sky is no longer simple. It is layered, like a quiet painting whose colours reveal themselves slowly as the night deepens. You remember that the universe is not infinitely old. It has a beginning, a moment when everything was compressed into a warm, glowing fog, a young cosmos unfolding like a sunrise over an untouched world. The darkness tells you that this beginning still matters. If the universe had existed forever, you would not see the night. Every patch of sky would blaze with accumulated starlight, bright as the surface of a shining orb. But the darkness whispers that time has limits. The universe has not existed long enough for light from all corners to reach you. You're standing inside a story that is still being written. You look again at the sky and recall the cosmic horizon, your personal boundary of visibility. Beyond it lie galaxies, stars, clusters, filaments of structure. that stretch across unimaginable distances. Their light will reach you someday, long after you're gone, long after the Earth itself has changed beyond recognition. The darkness is the boundary of the cosmic conversation that has reached you so far. Everything beyond it is a future whisper. Closer to home, you recall how the expansion of space stretches starlight into softer colours. The light that once burned bright in the youthful universe has been elongated by billions of years of cosmic breathing. Waves that began in blinding brightness now arrive as gentle microwaves, the faintest glow of a cooling cosmos. These ancient waves fill the entire sky, yet your eyes cannot see them. But the knowledge that they are there adds a quiet comfort. The universe has been shining since its earliest moments, and it continues to shine even now. You might think of the sky as a silent dome, but tonight you sense the soundless hum of the cosmic microwave background, an afterglow that has been travelling for nearly the entire lifetime of the universe. It is the oldest light we can see, carrying the memory of a time when everything was bright and everything was close. That light is stretched into a wavelength too deep for your eyes to catch, but it still fills the heavens in every direction, like a lantern hidden behind a veil. The darkness you see is not darkness at all. It is the colour of a glow your eyes cannot interpret. You stand under this sky and feel your place within it. The stars that surround you are only the nearest lamps in a vast and ancient city. The galaxies beyond are their distant streets. And the invisible radiation, infrared warmth, ultraviolet echoes, microwave whispers, is the quiet night wind carrying the stories of these far-off neighbourhoods. Even in silence, the universe is speaking. Even in darkness, it is glowing. And perhaps the most tranquil realization of all is that every star you see is sending you light from its own past. When you look at the night sky, you're not looking into space, you're looking into time. The stars are not where they appear, they are where they were long ago. The darkness is not a void, it is the space between stories still travelling toward you. And the universe is not quiet, it is unfolding, expanding, changing, even now, even in this moment as you breathe under its canopy. The paradox that once seemed so puzzling has softened into a gentle truth. The sky is dark because the universe is young, because light takes time to travel, because space stretches the colours of starlight into deeper tones, and because our eyes are tuned to only a small part of the cosmic spectrum. The darkness is not the universe failing to shine. It is the universe revealing its history in the only way it can, through light that arrives slowly, across billions of years, and through light that has drifted into hues we cannot see. As you stand beneath the stars, this quiet understanding may bring a sense of peace. The sky does not hide its secrets out of distance or indifference. It reveals them patiently, gently, in waves of colour that arrive one by one over the course of cosmic time, and you, for a brief moment, get to be a witness to that unfolding. The next time you look up at the night sky, perhaps you'll feel a different kind of closeness. Not the closeness of distance, but the closeness of shared history. Every photon that touches your eye has crossed unimaginable stretches of space to greet you. Every point of darkness carries light still on its way. Every star is a message, every horizon a promise, every silence a reminder that the universe is both ancient and growing, vast beyond measure, but connected to you in ways deeper than sight alone can tell. And as you breathe in the stillness of the night, you might notice a soft realization settling in. The darkness is not an emptiness. It is an invitation, one that welcomes you into the quiet, ongoing story of a universe that is still unfolding its light. And so, as you linger beneath the vastness of the night sky, the story of Olbers Paradox comes to rest in a place that feels gentle and reassuring. But the reflection does not truly end where the explanation ends. The paradox leaves behind a quiet echo, an echo that invites you to look at the night sky not only with curiosity, but with a kind of tenderness. The darkness that once suggested emptiness now becomes a presence of its own, a soft reminder of how young the universe is and how many chapters are still waiting to arrive in the form of travelling light. If you let your thoughts drift a little longer, you might find yourself imagining what the sky would look like far into the future. As the universe continues to expand, the galaxies we see now will slip farther away. Their light will grow softer. Their colours will slide deeper into wavelengths no human eye could ever perceive unaided. Millions of years from now, the sky might become even darker than it is today. Not because there are fewer stars, but because their messages must cross an ever-expanding sea of space. Future eyes, standing on some far-off world, may see only a handful of familiar galaxies. The rest will be lost behind the cosmic horizon forever, carried into invisibility by the stretching of the universe. This future darkness will carry its own poetry. It'll be the imprint of a universe whose edges continuously retreat. A universe where expansion itself gently dims the lights of the past. The stars will still be there, still shining, still weaving their stories into space, but the distance between cosmic storytellers and cosmic listeners will have grown too vast, and yet, here and now, you stand at a moment of extraordinary visibility. The universe is still young enough that many galaxies remain within our view. Their faint glows, the ones that our eyes cannot see but our instruments can, are still reaching us. The cosmic microwave background still washes across the sky with a near-perfect smoothness, a signature from a time long before galaxies took shape. You are living at a moment when the universe is bright enough to be studied, but old enough to carry the weight of its history. It is a delicate window, suspended between what once was and what will eventually be. When you look at the darkness above you, you also look at something profoundly human, the way we interpret what we see. For thousands of years, people looked at the night sky and assumed it simply was dark. They did not realize that the darkness held clues to the nature of time, motion, and the universe's beginning. It is a reminder that sometimes the most revealing part of reality is not what shines, but what doesn't. Not the light that reaches us, but the light that has not arrived. This idea carries a quiet emotional resonance. Darkness becomes a symbol of what is still unfolding, still forming, still on its way. It suggests that understanding, whether scientific or personal, often moves slowly. That clarity arrives like starlight, long after its source has begun shining, carrying the history of its origin across immense distances. It reminds us that we too live within a horizon. We understand only what has reached us so far. Beyond that lies everything we have yet to learn, everything still travelling toward us through the slow and patient corridors of time. And in that sense, the night sky becomes a mirror. The stars we see are like the ideas, experiences, and emotions that have reached us. The darkness is the space we have not yet grown into. The universe, in its vastness, resembles the inner world of any person trying to make sense of their existence. Light and darkness coexist, not as opposites, but as partners in a single, unfolding story. If you take one last slow look at the sky tonight, perhaps you'll feel a sense of companionship. Each star, no matter how faint, is connected to you through a journey of billions of years. Every patch of darkness carries the promise of unseen galaxies still sending their light. Every breath you take happens under a sky filled with hidden radiance. This universe, vast and ancient, is not distant from you. You are part of its fabric, made of the same particles forged in the hearts of stars, living within the same flow of time that shapes the night above. And so the paradox resolves itself into something peaceful. The night is dark not because the universe is lacking, but because the universe is alive, still expanding, still cooling, still carrying light through its enormous distances in a slow and graceful dance. The darkness is the universe's way of telling you that it has a past, a present, and a future, and that you are standing in the small line of time that intersects all of them. As you let your gaze rest one last time on the quiet sky, you might hear the soft echo of the truth this journey has uncovered. The darkness of the night sky is not emptiness, it is evidence. Evidence that the universe is expanding, evidence that it had a beginning, evidence that its light is still unfolding, evidence that time itself is woven into the fabric of everything you see. And in that darkness there is a warmth, a reminder that the universe does not reveal itself all at once. It reveals itself slowly, gently, like starlight travelling across the ages, reaching you exactly when it is ready.